Hello and welcome to another enlightening episode of Media Hub. I'm your host, Don D. Sanchez, and today we'll be focusing on the role that shapes the essence of visual storytelling. That's right, the director of photography. So whether you're an aspiring cinematographer or just curious about the magic that happens behind the lens, this episode will illuminate the path, the challenges, and the creative triumphs that all DPs deal with. So join us as we delve into the journey and the wisdom of all these seasoned DPs who have captured the essence of countless narratives through the lens. My first guest is a very good friend of mine. His name is Jeff Stitzel. He's based out of Colorado, and we actually went to college together back in 1992, if you can believe it. We've worked on numerous projects together, such as sitcoms, game shows, and reality shows. So without further ado, let's meet Jeff. Jeff,
Hey,
what's going on?
what's up? Hey.
Hey, man, I'm really good. I'm so glad that you decided to do this when I asked you. I know it was kind of threw you off, and I did it last minute, and you were like, okay. But I do thank you for doing that, man. I really appreciate it. I think you have a lot of wisdom, and you've done a lot of shows, a lot of different types of shows. So I think our viewers will appreciate what you have to say about the industry. So, hey, man, I know you, right? But the viewers don't. So why don't you go ahead and just start off with how you got in the industry, right? And then just some of the projects you've done.
Well, actually, I got in through high school. In my high school, we had a broadcasting arts program. And your junior year, you got to do radio, which I thought, well, heck, who doesn't want to play records and listen to music all day, right? And then the second year, you got to do television arts. And so my junior year, did radio, loved it. It was a lot of fun, learned a lot, got my FCC license, ran my own, and actually produced my own radio show daily. I think it was 2 hours, two hour shifts, 5 days a week. And then my senior year, got into television. I'm like, whoa, this is what I want to do right here. And fell in love with it. And so our program is kind of unique, actually. So it was different than any AV class where you take projectors or you do school projects and stuff like that. We actually had a live television show where the students were the crew members, and our teacher, the instructor, was the host. So our instructor would, he'd produce a show. He would call up musical acts. He would call up the zoo, and we would have animals come from the zoo. We would have, current events with the school board or what's going around in my hometown in Hamilton, Ohio. And so we ran the ship while he was the host. We had, I think it was 3 cameras, a lighting crew, audio, teleprompter. We also had a TD, a technical director, who switched the show, a director, and then we also had a host. I'm sorry. It would be the Ed McMahon, whatever they're called. So it was a live 1 hour variety show every day for one whole year. And I really excelled in it. As a matter of fact, our high school, my show that I directed, was nominated for a regional Emmy in Cincinnati. And we were going up against Channel 2, Channel 7, Channel 9, so NBC, CBS, and ABC. We were going up against all those guys, and we did not make it. But, I mean, as a 17-year-old kid to be regionally nominated,
Absolutely.
that was pretty... So I got the bug, and I fell in love with it, and I just kept going for it, man. I just had the drive. And that's one thing you have to have is drive.
That's weird that you say that, unless I know, dude. You're over 50. I'm 50 now, and I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if you ever told me this before. I can't believe how similar our backgrounds are getting into the industry, because I was through high school as well. I got the bug there. I was like, this is definitely, I was going to go into marketing or physical therapy. And only because I had been through physical therapy so many times, I was like, that's what I'll do. And then when I took the television course, I was like, wow. And we did the same thing at a TV station, and we had to produce, shoot, edit, everything. So I can't believe I didn't know that. Unless I did and I forgot, but.
You forgot, because I know about you. You were the host.
I did host one.
You were the
Like
host.
here probably. I was like this. I turned my head
Ah,
in slow
it did well
motion,
for
and then
you.
I turned back.
It did
I'm
well for
probably
you
still
because
not
you
any better. What?
no, because it did really well for you because I remember you from there you went on to do that show Saved by the Bell, and then
Wow, we're already going there on this, huh? Is this how we're playing this interview? All right.
aren't you Slater?
Wow. That's how this is going to be. Okay. All right. The viewers are going to have a lot of laughs today. I'll tell you that real
That's a
quick.
lot of inside
Real
joke, I
quick.
believe.
So check it out. So, okay. So me and you, we met in college, right? And
Yes.
so tell me what your path was after college. Like, how did you become a DP? Because not everybody just, I mean, these days it's a little different, bro. Everybody has a DSLR camera there, swear they're a DP. But me and you know it's totally different. Then that's what we're going to break down today. So tell me the path that you took, because me and you took kind of different paths, right? But you tell me tell everybody the path you took.
So after I went to film school, I moved back to my hometown of Hamilton, Ohio. And as you may know, it's not really a hotbed for production. Cincinnati was quite far away. It was about an hour drive each way. So I got out, and of course, I just found out that one of my brother's friends was in the industry, and she did a lot of commercials for this company called Redna Productions, and they do all of like Procter and Gamble, Tide commercials, Pampers, Dawn dish soap, you name it. They do all kinds of different commercials. So I got a hold of her because we were roundabout friends. We knew each other, and she gave me a bunch of. She was like, you're not ready for this yet. But I do have a bunch of smaller production companies in Cincinnati that I will um, get your name to. So it's all about networking. It's all about who like who can I call, who can I make a connection to, who needs to know who Jeff Stitzel is, right? So I called her up, got the contacts from her, and then there was one company. It was called at the time it was called Multimedia Productions, and they were the sister company with. Um, Back in the day, there was a show called Sally Jesse Raphael.
Mm-hmm.
There was Bill Donahue, and then there was Jerry Springer, and they were the sister company of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to work on one of these shows. Well, this company just did corporate stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the sister company, all the other stuff. And little did I know they were out of Chicago, and so I really wanted to work for that company. So I started like calling all these different companies that she gave me the info to, and one of the companies was like this shy of doing wedding videos. I mean, it was that small time, but I
Right.
mean, it, so I gave them a call, and of course I started working for them, and then right away they knew that I kind of knew my stuff because of the college I went to and of the knowledge I had. But this one company, I kept calling them, and I got her name, and I gave her my resume, and she's like, "Oh my God, it looks great. Nothing's going on yet, but we'll give you a call when something does." Well, what did I do? I just kept calling. Like I'd
Mm-hmm.
call once a week, and I'd be like, "Deb, hey Jeff, how you doing?" And I would say,
Yeah.
"Hey, just see if you have anything going on." And by the way, this is a phone. If anybody doesn't, I mean, it's not this, right? So,
I got.
so, hey, Deb, how you doing? And I just call her, and I call her, and I would call her every week, every week, every week, and I would still do these little small shows, not shows. They were just more like functions or events, and learn from them, of course. And then I would just every week, and then one day she's like, "Look, we don't have anything coming up, so we have your name and number. We'll give you a call." So I have nothing to lose, so I start calling twice a week.
Hey,
And then,
persistence is everything in this industry. You know that.
dude, man, it's timing and persistence. You're right.
That's right.
So I called her twice a week, and then she was like, "Today is your lucky day. We
See?
have something. We have something. You have been, you're hungry. Let's put you on it." And I started doing it, and I started, and basically it was for Hilderam. What they would do is back then they had these green screen. You had to get the green screen lit right because it would bleed over. The edges would tear, and we were doing a lot of chrome like medical devices and big, huge like medical furniture, um, and gurneys and that kind of stuff. And we put it on a turntable, and the camera would sit there and it would do 360, and then I would come with a forklift, I would move it out, and then I would bring it out, and that was it. After about 10 days of this, I see the DP. We become friendly and had a bunch of laughs together. And I saw him scratching his head on the set, and
Right.
he's just doing one of these things, just kind of looking up and looking at the thing. And I'm like, it's like, hey, what's going on? And he was like, oh man, I got too much bounce from this backlight, and I need it, and I can't really shake it because I need to be able to put the mat in. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I have a suggestion. If you'd like to hear it. And he said, love to hear it. And I'm like, well, do you have a minus green?
Mm-hmm.
Go on. I was like, well, what if he took minus green and put on a backlight, and that may separate some of the edge, and like a quarter or an eighth, just to get rid of some of that bite. And he looked at me. He goes, "You're a genius." Went up, he put minus green on the backlight, and it fixed the trick. And from then on, I didn't know this until he told me later on. He went to Deb and said, call this kid for everything we have because he knows what he's doing and he's hungry. And there were two other guys that went there that were doing the job with me, and they went to a bigger university, and they knew all about theory where I knew all about practicality of set and new lighting. And from there, I jumped. That was my one and only PA job. I went from that right to lighting, grip and electric. And
Wow.
I started doing commercials, and I started doing not episodes at that point. I started doing features, and then anytime a feature would come in Cincinnati, which was very, very, very far and few between. But yeah, I was persistent, and then that led on to more. Then I got into the bigger time of doing commercials with Redneck Productions, which was my oh my gosh, I made it. I'm at Redneck Productions doing big time commercials, lighting and grip, 35 millimeter, film stock. For you guys that don't know, film stock is the stuff you would put into a camera that you would record on, and it would do like an image, kind of like the Flintstones, where they would take a stone with the pterodactyl or whatever the hell.
Oh my
But
God, that's
anyway,
hilarious.
started doing a lot of film stuff, and then so did the Cincinnati market for about 4 years, and then a friend of mine from Florida called me up and said, hey, you need to move to Orlando. Nickelodeon's going crazy right now. And that's that.
That's
Started
awesome.
working at Nickelodeon.
Yeah. And the thing is, so you DP now, but you actually went through the lighting route, right? Which really, to become a DP, most of them should go through lighting routes to learn how to light properly, right? And I mean, honestly, even being a grip, right, to this day as a DP, and we'll get into it later on as through other questions, how did that background help you even on recent jobs 30 years later, right? And going through lighting and grip?
Well, I got so many stories. Gosh. So I found that there's two different type of DPs in the industry. One's a lighting DP, and the other's a camera DP.
Right.
So you got one guy that came up through the camera department who was an AC that went through second AC, and then just and knew everything about the camera, knew every button, every function, every menu, every shading and this and that, knew everything about, and then they know everything about the camera. Mm-hmm. So if you're that kind of a operator, you know a lot about the camera, and you know a little bit about lighting. You know the simple stuff, but then I would suggest get in good with a gaffer. So a gaffer is going to save you. Whereas if you're a lighting DP and you know the ins and outs about lighting and refraction and lighting, anything to do about cutting light and how to cut light quickly and this and that, then you need to get an AC that knows more about camera. And that's what I've always done. And that's what I've always tried to do. I know, but I was fortunate enough to where I started doing lighting early on, went through Nickelodeon Studios, did lighting with them. Prior to that, though, I was in camera department. So I started out as utility, learned a lot about the camera as utility, as an AC,
Mm-hmm.
worked my way up, then switched back to camera, or I'm sorry, switched back to lighting,
Right.
worked my way through the lighting position, worked with some of the best lighting designers in the world at Nickelodeon, and just sucked in everything that they would like. They always were happy to teach. Dick Weiss to this day, one of the best in the world, and we had him at Nickelodeon Studios. And any question I had, he had an answer for. And sometimes he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that," which is also a really great, thing about him is he was always learning as well,
Yeah.
always. But
Which I think that's something that
learn,
happens all the time. I mean, I don't think any of us have arrived. We get more comfortable when we know how to troubleshoot things, right? But we're always learning, right? Like I was on a shoot
yeah,
just this past week, and looking at the lighting guys, I learned something new, which I was like, I came back to the office. I was like, I can't believe I never thought about doing this. Like it was ridiculous how easy it was, right? Because the two ways that you become a DP that you said are exactly how me and you were. I went the camera route and you
yeah,
came up through the lighting route, right? That was the way we
yeah,
that's what I meant by separate. We took separate paths to get to where we are today, right? But none of them are
right,
wrong, but you're absolutely right. Like, I know how to light, but when I do like bigger commercials, I do make sure I have a gaffer that knows what I'm thinking, and he's going to be like, okay, Don, it is what we're going to do. Like I'll call things out, but he's like, hey, we can do this instead, as opposed to me knowing more of the cameras and compositing the shot and things like that, composition and things like that. You know what I mean? So those things, like I think my lighting is always evolving. As opposed to those that
oh, yeah,
probably came up through the lighting. It's a very,
totally,
very, very good point. So whether you want to end up being a DP or not, there's two routes to go. And personally, now that I went the camera route, like I really think it's important to take the lighting route. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're a little bit more well-rounded when you do that. You know what I mean? Because as you're DPing, you're learning more about the camera and everything anyway. So
yeah. I
that's my
understand.
opinion.
I understand that. I also understand that technology is changing every day in camera, so you got to
Yeah.
stay up on it no matter what. But if you have a great AC, they can do it for you.
Listen, and
But
today, I mean, it's you got to know all of them too, not even just one. You got to know them all. It
yeah,
ain't like the
yeah,
old days. You got to call. This
yeah.
is the camera that you just knew what camera was going to be on set. Now you have your flavor of the week. Of what it's going to be. So let
Man,
me ask you this.
I miss Betacam. I miss Betacam because you can have a Sony or you can have an Icky. It's a Betacam. It's going to be the same. You got the same
It's going to be
format
the
and everything
same,
else. I miss Betacam. I'm going to say it.
right?
I miss Betacam. I
And
miss
it's
it.
only one menu. It's only one menu you need to know.
That's it.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
It's
I And so let me ask you this: in your opinion, what qualities or attributes are essential for the role of a successful role as a DP? So, what are the things that you have to know to be a good DP?
well. First thing is respect. You got to have respect for the people above you and the people below you. You have to have a great attitude. You have to. I mean, it's so common in DPs, and I don't know why we do this, but we all get chips on our shoulders. We all get this. I'm the DP. I'm the what does this producer know? Yada yada yada, and you'll learn quickly that that's not the route you want to go. Be
That's right.
humble, and just if somebody says something that is not really right, um, try to in a politely way to like state why it's not. But if it's not, then do it the way they want, and then say, hey, we can do it this way, or we could try it you know this way. It may because of the cut. You're always sometimes they get so caught up in story and this and that, and they're not thinking, it's like, well, it won't cut. And if it doesn't cut, it's not going to be good for the editors. So you always got to think of that as well. So it's great attitude. First of all, it's respecting the people above you and below you, because we all know the old saying, the guy that's slapping you who's in a cooler is going to be your boss 3 years down the road. So respect goes a long way, and just be grateful that you're on the show, and be grateful that you have the people you're with.
Absolutely.
But that goes a long way, and then always thinking about the cut. Always, of course, the lighting and this and that, but you also got to think about the edit. And to me, if you're over the wrong shoulder and your other camera operator's over the other shoulder, it's not going to match. And heck, it's like then they're going to be looking kind of weird when they cut back. So think about the edit. If your other camera guy's on a two shot, you want to be on a single, or you want to be on detail of what they're shooting. If they're on that two shot, or if they're on a single, if they're not away from you and your person's finished talking, find the other shot. So always thinking of the edit, always thinking of the cut. I think.
Especially working with multi cameras, like you mentioned, because I mean, most DPs these days, they're just one camera operator. They have no idea how to work with others. Like you said, be a good team player on certain things. And when you DP, right? Like, I want you to get into, first. Let's go back a little bit. Why don't you just mention some of the shows you've worked on, so people get an idea? Like, you're not working on small time stuff. You know what I mean? Just it's not gloating, but I just want the viewers to understand the type of projects you do, so when you're saying things, like, what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
So like I said, I started out doing industrials, and also doing stuff, corporate stuff, right? Like everybody does. Doing smaller stuff will actually get you prepared for the bigger stuff, I should say. So
It makes you
the
appreciate
smaller
it
stuff,
more as well.
it,
You know what I
it
mean?
really does. It really
Yeah.
does. So I guess my Nickelodeon studios. I mean, you name it. Keenan and Kel, all that, Guts. You name tons of their shows. But after that, a couple features. I did Airborne, and that was Mel Gibson's first production company. I did another feature. Keith, you put me on the spot here, brother.
That's all right. But
Um,
what about some of the reality shows you've done? Because you've done quite a bit.
so yeah, I started out on The Mole, which was I think that was an ABC show. So The Mole was one of my was my, like, oh wow, this is big network stuff. So The Mole, and that was with Anderson Cooper back before he was as big as he is now. And then I did the Osbournes, which was back in the day, which was probably one of the biggest, real, true to life reality shows. That it was single camera, no producing. We followed Ozzy and Sharon and Jack and around, and whatever they did, they did, and it was a true reality show. Did a little bit of Newlyweds, and then I went on to do Surreal Life, is where they took, like, all these B actors, put them in a home, put them in a house, and we followed them around, and they made a fool of themselves. I did America's Next Top Model, 3 seasons of that. I did um, not Hell's Kitchen, the other one, Kitchen Nightmares. I actually did Steadicam on that, as well as shoot. Then from there, I've done, gosh, biggest one to this day is Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, and did underwater DP, as well as lead DP, 4 crews.
Let me ask you this: throughout all your
Well, I've pretty much done it all. I've been up I've been up in a blimp, shot in a blimp. I've shot in. I do drone work. I also do underwater cinematography for National Geographic. I do handheld, of course, and then some long lens stuff for concerts, tight single stuff, or also on the dolly, track runs on the dolly for concerts. Sports, earlier on, I did some sports, um, but that's about it.
Out of all the stuff that you've done, is there a favorite or one that maybe sticks out like this job stuck out because of this?
Well, anytime you can get underwater with a camera, you know it's gonna be a good day. I mean, it's just so relaxing, so fun, so beautiful. Like images just come to you, and I mean, you don't really have to chase anything. It's like everything's a postcard when you're underwater um, shooting any kind of fish or turtle, or it's just unbelievable. Um, but yeah, I would say that. Um, but I guess the thing that I'm striving to do now is directing. I've actually had a chance to direct a couple Food Network shows, and I got the directing bug, which I really love because you
Right.
take everything you've learned from early on and then put it all together as a multicam director, and
Yeah.
it's just the most rewarding thing when you see this production come by and you go, oh wow, that just happened, and I called the shots for that. So that was my bug now.
And I actually think that probably the your background as multi-camera shoots on reality shows and work with multiple cameras on a scene that helps you with the directing role. Honestly, for me, it does.
100%. It helps you. It also helps you to be what kind of person you are too, because we all know that we've all worked for that one director who just loves to scream,
Yeah.
and they love to get upset about something minute or whatever,
Yeah.
even though they have six other cameras.
Yeah.
But they have the screamers, and you have like to see how that director um, calls the show and just treats the crew,
Right.
opposed to somebody who's calm and is collected, and they know what they're doing. They know what shot's coming up. They know how to fix it if it doesn't, and they're calm under pressure, and they at the end of the day, the crew wants to work with them again, and that's the kind of person, that's the kind of directing that I want to do.
That's great.
And I try to, and like when I directed my shows, that was what I even came out and told them. It's like, look, I am new at this. I'm going to tell you that right now, but I've been in this business for over 30 years. So I've been in your shoes. I've been in that shoe. I've
Right.
I've hung lights. So I know what you're doing. So if I make a mistake, I'm very sorry. We'll try to fix it together. And I just be humbled, and they really appreciated that. Like, oh wow, okay. Um, and that's how I got my chance to direct, and
That's cool, man.
loved it.
So that's what you want your next endeavor to be is like go more into the directing side of it.
I love I love visual. I love visual texture too, man.
Yeah.
So I did something on the show where I was the DP/director. For one, it still gave me the creative flexibility to, do some really cool stuff with lighting, and then,
All right.
but it also gave me the fact to, like choose the shots where, that we're going to be
Yeah.
on. Oh, that doesn't match. Okay, widen out. Okay, great. Call
Right.
those shots too. So
Right.
I guess I don't know that I ever. I mean, I'm 53 years old now, and I know that this industry is, you're limited. Um, but I can still, I see myself working into my 60s, and into my late 60s even, as a DP.
Yeah.
I would love to. I don't know if that's going to be if that's going to happen. I would totally like to start stepping more into the directing role, because
Yeah.
you've got the chops that you set up since you were, in your 20s, and now it's time to, make it happen. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: what are some of the things that, as a DP, what are some of the problems or some of the things that you have to troubleshoot on set? Just mention that, because all of us have them, right? We all deal with it. And like you said, it's very important how to be calm, not to take it out on the crew or your camera department on it when things aren't going right. So just mention some of the things that could happen, some of the challenges that DPs face.
Well, it's daily. I mean, I don't know about you, but my crystal ball stopped working a long time ago. So it always depends. How can I put this? Usually something's going to happen that you don't expect it to happen. Whether it's, I remember, well, okay, for instance, we were, the show that I directed for the Food Network, we had a, gaffer, we had a Ginny op, we had, a full electrics, we had everything. We had, we had all the departments, and all of a sudden here comes a thunderstorm, here comes lightning, and we had to get this shot because we were running out of daylight and everything else. So what are we going to do? But we can't because we got to turn the Ginnies off because of the lightning. The lightning's near 10 miles. So for safety for everybody on the set, it's not a question of, can we just get this through? No, we got to turn it off. Okay. How many panel lights do we have? Okay, well, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Let's from there we'll take the shots and make them a little tighter instead of wider.
Right.
And we'll use panel lights. We had to do it. And we looked at it, it's like, oh, wow, it looked really good. I mean,
yeah.
Could I tell? Yeah. Could, the crew tell? Yeah.
Yeah. Most viewers? No.
No. So, you have to be 3 steps ahead of it. And just curveballs. That's one instance.
How often do you get to, when you're in a DP role or a director role, how often do you get to call the crew that you want?
I would say early on in my DP years, a lot. I was able to bring on the people I wanted to bring on because we all mesh, we all work well together, and being on a set when everybody is clicking and everybody's jiving and everybody's having fun, but you're crushing it and you're making the product, whatever it is, unbelievable. There's no better feeling in the world. So sometimes you get stuck hiring people that you don't know, and that's starting to happen a lot more. Maybe because of he's cheaper, or she comes recommended by the executive producer's wife. So you know what? It happens. It happens a lot, and you just have to deal with it.
Sometimes it's a blessing. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But most of the times it's a blessing. You get to meet somebody new. They're a good worker. You know what I mean? Honestly, that's why I like working outside of just our projects in-house, the projects that the company does, because I get to meet new people. I get to see other workers that are out there. You know what I mean? Even the show that we were on, I got to meet a whole other set of people that do great. You know what I mean? They're all great individually. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't work outside of just our projects that come in here. You know what I mean? So sometimes freelancing like that, you get to meet others and you actually learn as well. You learn.
Every day.
Here's another question for you. How do you approach collaborating with directors and producers, other crew members, to bring the vision to life while maintaining your creative input and style? How do you do that? How do you collaborate with that but still keeping your creativity and everything?
So there's a saying that I think I coined, maybe not, I don't know. But I do know that budget will outweigh creativity every time.
Good saying.
Budget will always outweigh creativity every time. So when I was starting out as a DP, I wanted this lens, I wanted this camera, and I wanted, this light, and it had to be this special thing. And then, we can't afford that.
Hey, they don't call it a wish list for nothing,
Yeah.
You ever get, hey, send us your wish list, and then you end up getting like a quarter of your wish list, Yeah.
So then you just first, you I'd throw my little fat boy fit, and yeah, I want this line, I want this lens. You gotta have it because yeah. Well, guess what? The true fact is budget's going to outweigh creativity. So you
Yeah.
have to do the best that you can do with the gear that you have, regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless. I mean, I don't know how many times I've bounced headlights off of a daggone white card just to get the overall fill. I mean, it feels like going back to college days, right? But I mean,
Right.
sometimes in a pinch you have to, but that you have to be able to work together and say, well, I see what you want. I'm going to do whatever I can, and we're going to make it happen. And this is the best way that I know how to do it with what we have. And go out and just try and just do. It may not be exactly what you had in mind.
Yeah.
But if the producers are happy, like, oh, okay, well, a compromise, always goes a long way. I can't really get that lens, but if we can back up, 20 feet and then push in, we might be able to get a little bit more depth of field instead of having the prime. Let's try that. Just try working with what you have, with what the budget allows.
Okay. So since you mentioned that on a lot of jobs, especially back in the day, you were able to, call the equipment you want and the crew you want and everything, how did you establish your reputation for that? How did you get there?
To compromise. Working with line producers that say, okay, and you're going to know the difference between a good line producer and a line producer that's just doing their job. Is a good line producer, when you ask for a lens that you think you need to have, they're going to say, let me see what I can do for you.
Yeah. Well, real quick, just describe to the viewers what a line producer is, because some people might not even know what that is.
A line producer is basically an accountant that looks over the budget, and they go line item by line item by line item to see how much is in that budget for this particular production. And sometimes a good line producer, like, okay, Jeff needs this lens. Do we really need cherries and whipped cream on the craft service table, or can we take that $3 and put it towards Jeff's lens? How can we get the money to make this line item a little bigger, so we can get Jeff's wish list as much as we can?
Yeah.
Now there's always going to be, what, we couldn't get you this, but we have a little bit of money for this. Which would you rather have? So that's a compromise. That's a good line producer. A line producer that just says, nope, we don't have it in the budget, and moves on. That they're okay. You know what kind of person they are. Don't get on their bad side, because it'll never work out good for you. Okay, all right, and just do your job, and then try to do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And if the producer over her, or him, comes over and says, hey, gosh, this looks okay, but how can we make this better? You go, well, if we had this lens, I know that's not in the budget, but if we could find it somewhere in the budget to get this lens or the dolly that we need, it'll make the shot a lot better. Yeah, I know we have a Dana dolly here, but it's still going to be bumpy, and it's still not going to move the same as if I'm riding it and I'm finessing it with my, the force of the Jedi. Then the producer might go, okay, let me go talk to the line producer and see what we can come up with.
Right. This is part of the have a good attitude.
Have a great attitude. Don't try to go over the line producer and go, you know what? The line producer's not, giving me what I want. I want this, and this. And he just said no.
Yeah.
Never want to do that. You always want to take the approach like, okay, let me see what we have. Let's try to make it happen. Yeah. How can we make it better? Well, we may not need the Fisher 11 dolly, but maybe we can do it on a Dana dolly. Yeah. And how can we make that a little bit more steady? And how can we use the force of the Jedi to make this a little smooth transition?
that brings me to another question. So let's pick, I'm going to throw you a few scenarios and you tell me which one you want to talk about, because we could keep going on about this over and over. Do you want to talk about, let's say, how do you pick gears and equipment for a commercial, or do you want to pick one for a long narrative show like a reality show? Which one do you want to talk about?
Gosh.
That's two different things, right?
I would love to have the budget to pick for everything you have in a commercial.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, someone brings you a new show, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to go with? Which one do you want to go with?
Gosh, I want to go with the long reality show because I know it's going to go more days.
All right. Okay. So there's what we're going to talk, right? Because there's still a lot there, right? As a DP, because now production is depending on you because you're the DP, right? And the look for lighting, composition, shooting style, then now gear. What are we going to shoot on? What frame rate are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then you got to talk with post, right? This is all collaborating, right, with different departments, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How do you, on a reality show, let's say it's a new show, one that you've never done, how do you go about picking the gear that you want for the show? Just tell me the steps. Go through the process with me. A producer contacts you and says, hey, I got a new show, would love for you to DP, blah, blah, blah. What do you say?
I say, okay, what cameras would you like to shoot on? Whether, and why. Because a lot of times, we own Canon 300s, so let's use Canon 300s. Okay. So then you want to go, okay, so that camera is going to need,
more light.
This kind of shoulder mount because ergonomically, or the trash can. Because some DP somewhere said, hey, the 300s are awesome. And, oh, yeah, because they're cheap and you bought it. So it's what cameras are you using? What cameras would you like to use? Can I suggest cameras?
Right.
Here's the lenses I would like to use for this. Just for if we're doing regular reality, or is it going to be a lot of exterior or is it going to be interior? How much of it are there going to be car rides? Are there going to be, you need aerials, you need, I never ask how much you have in the budget because it doesn't matter. I don't care how much is in the budget. I'm going to go to what these people say and go, okay, we need this camera, we need this lens, we need a couple macro lenses because we're dealing with smaller, let's say animals or like frogs, or we're dealing with flowers, or we're dealing with something else. So we need macro lenses. We're going to need, are we going to need primes? Maybe not. Might be good to have one or two for interviews, but for the most part, we can do everything. If the budget calls for that, we can do without them. We can use a 17 to 120 Canon 17 to 120 to get that depth anyway. Is it going to be sharper with a picture? What kind of interview setup are we looking at? Are we looking at it's just going to be in their office, or are we building a set for it? Well, if we're going to build a set, we're going to need to figure out how big the room is because audio is going to complain that there's going to be too much this, so we're going to have to build a smaller room in the room with 20 buys. So we're going to need all this grip gear. We're going to need these kind of lights. We're going to need a set designer to come in, or am I set designing? A lot of times I'll set design collaborate with the showrunner to see what kind of look that this person sits in in a normal day to day. So there's tons of questions, and then you go through and you don't try to budget the show for the line producer. I want these 5 lenses. I want these 20 lights. I want these 30 stands. I want this, and this. And then they come back to go, oh, wow, do you really need 30 stands? Well, I could probably do without it if, depending on the situation, give me the 30 stands and we can always deduct. But I don't know. Am I answering your question?
No, you are answering the question because you're showing that a DP has to still collaborate with every department, every
Yes.
single department, right? It's not just the camera department. It's not just the visual. You can't be that DP. Well, oh, that's not my area. You know, no. Your job
Yes.
is to do the final outlook of the deliverable that your client wants. That's why they brought you in, right? So you have to work with lighting, sets, props, even wardrobe. Hair and makeup
Yeah.
and wardrobe. You still got to work with them because sometimes certain producers think that, oh, let's just go with what's on trend on what people are wearing. I have this all the time, and I'm like, why are we wearing black or white outside? And especially if my talent is dark complexion. Like, are you kidding me? And you give them a white T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, so collaborating with hair, makeup, wardrobe. I love going through. Sometimes I feel like I have meetings for meetings, right? Like you're going through calls with tech and scripts and budgeting. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? And you're like, you're going through all this, but you're putting in your 2 cents. Okay, if this is what you want to do, this is what it's going to take. Or, hey, can you just send me the deck so I can look at it and see what you are thinking of, so I know if I have the right type of lighting or the right lens, or, you know, like you said, let's say it's something in a car or something in a tight area. You always have to think of every department, not just camera department. One of the times I was actually very impressed with your work, believe it or not, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I think I told you this was when we were doing Critter Fixers, and when you said that you made the set on for the interviews and everything, and painted and everything. I was like, holy crap, I'm very impressed, because that's one job like I probably know I wouldn't go that far into it. You know what I mean? And then about a month ago when you sent me your shot for one of the crime reality shows. And you were telling me what you used in the background, and I'm like, oh, so what are you, art department now? Remember when I tell you this? Like, believe it or not, those little things is what separates you from a lot of other people.
You just go back to for that, Donnie. I went back to my Nickelodeon days, because they built a set. I don't know if you remember, but they built a set on the second floor of the doctor's garage. Right, he had a big studio above his garage, his personal garage. It was a big space, so they put 2 set walls. But the problem is they put a window, which is great, put a window in, but they put it right behind the doctors, and it's like, what are you supposed to see out there?
Right.
What's out there? I mean, you're just going to close the blinds and it's going to be. So I took a piece of beadboard and I painted it 3 colors of blue, left some white filled in it, and we put it up and it looked like sky. And then I took some fake plants and put underneath of it. It looked like hedges, and that's what we would do at Nickelodeon. So, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Dick Weiss would do it this way. So you go into back in your your childhood and your younger days of lighting, and then make it happen. But I had to, because we didn't have set design. We didn't have painters. We didn't have, it was me. It was me.
I mean, talk about a budgeted show. Here's one of the highest rated shows on Nat Geo, right? Nat Geo Wild, right? Nat Geo or Nat Geo Wild, right?
Yeah.
Nat Geo Wild. And you think like, oh, is Nat Geo Wild, they got big budget, right? But no, that's one of the perfect examples where you took the budget and you made it happen with what they gave you, right? Like, I'm sure you put your wish list in, but this is what I wanted. This is reality right here, right? Remember, I mean, you made it work with a white pop-up tent as a silk for all the interviews, right?
Yep.
Remember, our background was a wheat field for all of them. Remember? And what did you do? What did you do for the background?
For the background? Oh,
yeah, remember you
fake trees, didn't we?
Right, and we were constantly like moving them around to make it look different, right?
Just to make it look different. Yeah.
Yeah, because all we could shoot was in that we were during COVID, and all we could shoot was in this area. Like, this is it. But we had to shoot a whole season of interviews.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So learn, though, that's one, thinking on your feet, working with what you got, but still deliver a great product, because it
Yeah.
ended up being great. It ended up doing more seasons after that, right? So
They're still shooting.
yeah, but you know what I mean? But that's what
They're
really
still
makes,
shooting. They are still shooting. We
yeah,
are not.
not you, they. But well,
We show
that
them how
brings,
to do it.
you did show actually, and I'm
We
going to give you all
so
the credit
I
too.
no. See, that's one thing I'll never do. I'll never say
Yeah,
I. I'll never
yeah,
say me. I always say we,
yeah,
because it was a team. We were a team, and that's one thing I do. Going back to one of your other questions, uh, be humble. I mean, oh my gosh, like who did this? Oh, we all did. We all made it look this great.
yeah,
Not me. We all did it. And then, like, although I will say, it's like, um, oh, who came up with this idea? Like, oh, well, you know what? I was talking to Dondi, and he suggested. So
yeah,
give credit where credit's due, but don't take all the credit,
yeah, yeah,
because your crew is you.
yeah,
So always say we did this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just be humble and give credit to your crew, because they're the ones who helped you with that, no matter if it was your idea or not.
right,
But if you're the lead and somebody did, oh my gosh, Dondi had this great idea, let's try this. And you always do it in
yeah,
front of the producers, so they know that Dondi is on his game. And oh wow, thank you so much, Dondi, because Dondi wants to accolades as much as you do, but
yeah,
he's part of you. So if he gets it,
yeah.
you get it.
Yeah, I think another good point. I love that you said that, but I think another good thing for DPs too is like, look, just because you're a DP doesn't mean every job you do you have to be the DP. Like
Oh
you
gosh, no.
on those two shows that you called me on, I could care less if I was a DP. I,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I could care less. It was like you said, it's about being on the show that I wanted to be on, working with you and working with other people. It was a long running show. You know what I mean?
yep,
And it was a first that had a lot of potential. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I mean, don't get stuck on the role. If
yeah.
if you're getting into this business, it's about because you love the industry and you want to be part of something.
And stop micromanaging your crew.
Yeah.
They don't want you over your shoulder every 5 seconds. Like some of your crew, you got Kyle there that's helping you out right now. I never micromanage that kid. I never
Yeah.
micromanage my ACs. I never micromanage my second shooters, because they're there for a reason. They're there because they know what they're doing. They yeah. State. So when I go to a show, I'll say, okay, hey, this is how I like things done. Um, can we achieve to do this? And I
Yeah.
will always ask for this, and this. So always bring it, even if I don't ask for it. Okay, are we cool with that? Yep, I got it. Great.
Yeah.
I don't ever have to second guess it. I'm thinking of other things. I don't need to know. Okay, did they bring the 14 mil prime? Did they? Yep, I know they did, because we've already talked about it. They know what I'm going to bring. They know what I'm going to want. Um, and I never, ever, ever. Okay, did you delete those files? Did you reformat? No, I know they did. I'm just going to put it in and I'm going to go, because I know that they are on their game, because either A, I brought them on and I know how they work, or B, they're there because a producer, knows that they do well. And if
Yeah.
they're there for a reason, and they're going to always do their best. So
Yeah.
I never micromanage. No one likes it. So stop micromanaging your crew.
Oh, that's good. So
Simple.
let's talk. Let's give advice to the up and coming DP or a person that wants to become a DP. What advice would you give them as far as looking to build a portfolio or practical experience? How would that person go about that? What advice would you give them?
Take the smaller jobs, because it's always not. You may not put it on your reel, but um, it gives you a better avenue to be creative sometimes. Like I used to work on a lot of big shows, like oh gosh, what's the one cooking show? Um, Top Chef. I worked on Top Chef
Yep.
and big shows, which are great. But you're there as a camera operator. You're putting that camera on your shoulder, and you're shooting, and that you're going to shoot, and you're keep things in focus, and keep things where they, in your find your quadrants, your thirds, keep things in your and go down to the food, come back up the face, that kind of stuff. That is your jam. You are shooting the show. But if you take a smaller show as a DP or whatever, that's sometimes more ways to be able to flex your creativity. I remember doing a show I did. It was called Wife Swap, and you think ABC, oh my gosh, Wife Swap, that's a huge show. It's a
Yeah.
huge hit, and wow, that's no. It was one camera operator, one audio, one PA, a director, and then and I think maybe an AP, associate producer. So, and they even told me when I first took the job, the supervisor producer said, "Look, we don't care what it looks like. We just want it lit, and however you get it at the time, great." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they don't care what it looks like. This is going to be awesome. This is because you can't mess up." So it gave you like, okay, if they don't care what it looks like, I'm going to light it, but then I'm going to make it look really cool with what I have, and I'm
Right.
going to flex my creativity and make it one step better than the guy before me, or vice versa. But yes, it was such a fun show for the fact that I got to do whatever I wanted with lights. They didn't care. Okay, well, great. You can't mess it up. But it gave me an avenue to flex my creative juices and use different cookies and patterns and this and that and natural light and whatever. But yeah, I would start take a step back and do smaller shows and build your creativity that way and be
Okay.
able to flex like some creative juices. Then your bigger shows, then you can take those things that you learned that didn't work on some
Yep.
of the shows that kind of didn't matter to now the shows that are starting to get some more clout and they're bigger, and then you can go, well, that didn't work on this, so but this really did, and then you can flex your creative juices that way too.
Cool. Good advice. How about this? What look, like you said before, technology is constantly changing, like way faster than when we first got in the industry, right? Way faster. So what would you say are some essential tools or equipment that DP should become proficient in right now?
um I mean, knowledge based on camera, of course, because the lenses won't really change much. So if you know why am I going to use a prime versus a variable lens. um, Lighting will, for the longest time, never change. It's now it's changing. It's like now it's everything's programming on your phone. It's like, man, you used to have a switch and a knob on it to make it go to focus it wider or thinner, but now you do everything on your phone. Um,
All right, Jeff, I'm sure a lot of people want to know, how did you get your first DP job and what show was it?
yeah, so my first real DP job was a pilot for ABC, of all things. It was actually pretty big. So I got into reality world as a tech soup, and I made sure all the gear was where it needed to be. And this DP, his name is Mark Yoyohan, German guy. He's very strict, very demanding. He pointed me in a way, like he actually saw that I knew what I was doing, like in lighting, and I knew also tech world. And so he brought me in to start shooting. So I started shooting some shows, and then this line producer, this was in LA. I lived in LA at the time. Was like, hey, I got the show. Mark can't do it, but he trusts you into DPing the show. Would you be interested in doing it? I'm like, well, yeah. So it was from good attitude to humble to, oh my gosh, yes, I'll DP your show. And it was a show, I think it was ABC or NBC. It was one of the bigger affiliates. It was one of the bigger networks, and it was a wedding show. So right then, I'm like, okay, cool, wedding show. Everything needs to be soft. Everything needs to look dreamy and soft. So, the lights I wanted to use were more softer lights than harsher lights. So a lot of diffusion on lights everywhere. I actually went into the camera. This is before we shot log, and I went into the camera and I brought the detail down from 100% down to like 85. So it had that Barbara Walters like soft feel to it. And then sometimes we'd even, like for interviews, we'd even put like Pro Mist on front of the lens just to knock it down a little bit more. Especially if there was a bride's mother and they were a little older, I would bring the light down a little bit just to give that more softer look instead of trying to bring it up to get take the edges off, and then diffuse the hell out of it, and then put even a little bit more of a Pro Mist just to make it look dreamy. And this is back in a day when cameras had an A filter. I don't know if you remember, Dondi, the A filter. Do you remember the A filter?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The star filter, right?
Of course, yeah. You use it all the time, especially for sports. For sports, or for mainly for sports, I would use it. Or if you had any type of music stuff,
yeah,
just throw that A filter in there.
The A filter. So for you guys that don't know, older cameras used to have A, B, C, and D filters, and it was right next to your neutral density. Mm-hmm. And the A filter was always a star filter, and what it would do is it would take any kind of like light refractions or whatever, and it would make stars out of them. And it was a really cheesy filter that, like, sometimes they would make fun of people for doing it. So, in the B filter was always daylight, right? Or I'm sorry, tungsten. C was your mixed light, and D were daylight. And so that was how you changed to go from indoor to outdoor, and then the dreaded A filter. So I softened everything up, and then when it came to the actual ceremony and wedding, there was a lot of candles, so I called out on everybody go to A filter, and everyone was hesitant. They did not go to the A filter. I'm like, let me repeat that. Everybody go to the A filter. So we shot the whole ceremony in A filter, which was with all the bing,
very
ding,
dreamy.
Ding, and that created the style for that one show. So would I do it again on, let's say, like a Food Network challenge show? No. Right. But I did do it for that because it called for that. And my style changes. It depends. If I'm doing a wedding show that, yes, I'm going to make it softer. I'm going to make the brides look softer, and I'll make them glow. But if we're doing, something like a tattoo show or something like that, I'm going to do harsher shadows, and I'm going to make, I'm going to use, reds and greens and blues and that kind of stuff, and purples on lights just to make it more edgy. But then there's, if we're doing, a dating show, I'm going to do natural look, natural feel. Animal shows, I want to make them warmer. I want to go into the camera and make it warmer. So my style varies from show to show.
Yeah, and I think that's very important as a DP, because every producer that brings you a show is going to want a little bit of their look or what they're envisioning too. So you have to know how to incorporate, how to make it happen. So yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's always a different look for everything. It's not always one thing. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one time I did this pilot, and they were shooting in an old whiskey barn. And I'm like, well, I need a fog machine for this. Like, wait, hold on, a fog machine? I'm like, yeah. So that way we can bring in some natural light, add some of our own, bring in some HMIs, blare it through the wood, and then bring in some fog just to fog it up a little bit, so you have that, those beams of light coming through the barn onto the barrels that are here, and not really try to light the barrels front ways, but bring in
sideways,
make it fill side and have the smoke fill it to make it look kind of dusty. Um, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we never thought about a fog machine. So that was a style that I did.
Yeah.
So another cool effect I did too was I was doing a barbecue show, Barbecue Pit Masters, and it was hot. Oh my gosh, it was hot, hot, hot that day, and they wanted to capture how hot it was. And they're like, "How can we make it look hot?" I'm like, "Well, go to the store and go buy 15 cans of sterno, and we're going to light them up. We're going to put them in front of the lens, and we're going to shoot long. That way, you see the heat coming off
Mm-hmm.
of the subject."
Right.
With the sterno making that wavy effect, and that's how you're going to get your hot look. Oh my gosh, so they went and got 30 cans of sterno because they love the idea so much, and we would do a lot of B-roll shooting through sterno.
All right, Jeff, I want you to give advice to all the newcomers or the ones that are looking to advance their career. What traits do they need to be successful in this industry?
Attitude and personality. You have to have a great attitude. As a PA, all the way up into a director, up into showrunner. I mean, you have to have a good attitude, and you have to be humble. Um, don't come on set thinking that you're going to be the king dingling here. You need to have respect for everybody below you and above you. I can't say this enough.
All right, Jeff, I want to end with this because you have a long career, successful career, and you've done a lot of stuff during your career. So just end it with this. Just tell us, what did you enjoy the most out of being in this industry?
This industry, I would say what I enjoyed the most would be the relationships that I've had with all my crew members. I keep in touch with just about everybody that I've worked with. I mean, of course, there's some where you only work a day or two here and there, but just the fun, the camaraderie, the relationships, and just learning off of other people. Gosh, I mean, I learn on every show something different, and I really enjoy the fact that I am still learning to this day. Um, and just and taking all the stuff that I did in the past, all the fun, all the fun techniques and different styles of lighting and ways of shooting, and just bringing it all together, and and hanging out with all my friends and keeping in touch with them. That to me is probably the best thing about production, is the camaraderie and friends.
That's cool, man. I definitely agree with you. I mean, and I definitely got to say, you, especially out of everyone in our class that we graduated with in college 30 plus years ago, uh, you are the glue. You're the one that always keeps in touch. When you come into town, you get us all together. So I can honestly say that I know you enjoy that because you are that person, you know. And
Yeah, no,
I mean, even through all the years, even the years you were in reality world and you were traveling all over the place, and even though we didn't talk all the time, we still knew as soon as we talked, it was like we didn't skip a beat. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate your friendship, and thank you for your time in doing this, and thank you for giving your insights to the new generation. I really appreciate it.
yeah, my pleasure.
All right, man. Thanks.